Hey everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mondays with Mariah. My name is Mariah Scott, and I have two lovely guests with me today. So I'm going to introduce them. So this is Kalo Brown. I have known him for a couple of years now. He's just amazing energy, just a wonderful person to be around, and he's really active in his community. And then we have Sean Crisis. And I really adore and love Sean Crisis. I actually just saw him perform yesterday live. It was amazing. He got the crowd hyped. It was awesome. So today's episode is really addressing how to find happiness in your current situation. So this is for the college students, the millennials, those who chose a direction and probably aren't necessarily at the point that they want to be in their lives. So we're just gonna have an open conversation about how we can really find happiness in our current situations. And for those millennials out there who are still trying to go through that self-discovery path, how we can really start moving forward and progressing in our everyday lives. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are awesome. So, Kalo, can you tell me about what you do, about your work, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I work in corporate social responsibility at HBO, which is basically how HBO does social good. So all of our like philanthropic opportunities and how we do charity and pro-social initiatives, so like trying to raise awareness around different issues. So I assist the head of that department, the SVP of that department, and I've been there for like a year and a month. And it's been a road. It's been a blessing. It's been a road. It's taught me so many things, and I'm blessed to be there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how did you particularly choose this path for yourself?
Yeah, I'm like, do we have time? Yeah, so I mean, I went to Syracuse University. I studied IT, and that's what I ended up graduating with. And I interned at JP Morgan for like 4 summers, and I was like set to work there, and like that was gonna be my path. And I think growing up, like I grew up in a single parent home, like grew up in the projects in New York City. And I always like had a heart for community. I always had a heart for people, and I was involved with different things at college. And I just felt like there was this tug between what I was really passionate about, and then like what I was pursuing. And I felt like there wasn't, it didn't coincide and it wasn't together. So, but also like growing up and seeing my mom trying to raise, I have a twin brother as well, like trying to raise 2 kids by herself. And like I've seen, when we were on welfare, when we were on food stamps, like I've been through that. And like I think inherently financial insecurity was something that I was like shying away from, and I wanted something that was going to be stable. I was going to be financially good. So that's what kind of I think subconsciously told me to pursue a degree path that yielded a good starting out salary. So I was wrestling with these things, and then I think one summer I was at 4 New York Plaza, which is in Water Street, like downtown where Wall Street is. And I was talking to all the people on the floor, and I was talking to them, and we would sit down with these managing directors and stuff, and they would ask them, like, what do you really want to do? Because I think as millennials, we really start to question, like, what are we passionate about? Like, what is really life really about? And, he said, oh, I want to be a sportscaster. And I'm like, cool, why don't you pursue that? And I thought about comfort, I thought about safety, and this conversation with my boy Speedy, shout out to Speedy, he's an anchor at Complex, and we were talking. He was like, yo, I don't see anything else but Complex. He was like, I don't have a plan B. And I was like, whoa. Like, I started to really wrestle with these things, and it was like comfort and passion and all these things. And I was like, I really want to work. I was like, yo, screw corporate America. I want to work in nonprofit. Like, I want to be with the folk. Like, I want to be with the people, like really on the ground. But like, I think what was conflicting about it was like some nonprofits, like granted, if you work for a Posse Foundation, if you work for the Freedom Project or, the Future Project or whatever, these are like multi-million-dollar nonprofits, they're good. Then you have these boutique nonprofits that are like $1 million and below. You lose a grant, that's your job. So I started to, I think, wrestling with comfort and passion, I started to look for, okay, like how can I marry the two? And I found corporate social responsibility, which is basically the nonprofit arm of corporations. When I go to work every day, I know that we're talking about, not saying that everything doesn't matter, but like we're talking about things that I care about, whether it's the Me Too campaign going on and how we're elevating stories around that, or last year we raised $500,000 for the IRC, which is international rescue community around, it's one of the largest nonprofits for the refugee crisis. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out, right? I think it's about I've learned it's about the journey, right? Granted, that's cliche,
Right.
but it's really true.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's actually some of the points that we're going to bring back out that you were talking about the comfort zone and
Yeah.
about like really kind of pursuing your passion and figuring out when you're going to take that direction. But
Yeah.
I want to get to Sean. So you are an artist, and you're also getting your master's at Wagner. So can you talk about how you decided to go down the particular, I don't want to call it a path because it can be a jungle sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get into that particular direction?
It started right after high school. I didn't take my SATs because I knew I didn't want to go to traditional college.
That's real.
I went to school right down the block at SAE, School of Audio Engineering, for music production and audio engineering. It was something I was passionate about. I was passionate about just music in general and music production. And about, I would say, 3-4 months into the program, I dropped out. I was just not ready for it. I wasn't ready for, I wanted to get to mastering and failed to recognize that it really took steps in order to get to there. But I was so head honcho and so headstrong for wanting to go to the top that I forgot about all of the bottom steps. So I dropped out and then I took a year off. And in that year, I think, how sometimes you like self-diagnose, depress yourself of like stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It was that, but throughout, I guess halfway of it, I found myself through self-help books and like Barnes and Noble section, and I was in there.
Shout out to Barnes and Noble, right?
Where I got really entranced with psychology and just how the mind works. I was on Psychology Today almost every day, looking up different articles. I was just trying to find an answer as into what was going on with me and everything that encompassed around me. Then I went to Middlesex County College, MCC, in Edison, in Jersey, and got my associates in psychology there. Then I transferred to Kane University, and shout out to KU, that's my love.
Yeah.
Graduated with major in psychology, minor in sociology. I really love the aspect of understanding self and then understanding people and understanding a crowd of people and seeing how people reflect one another, how people imitate one another, how people influence one another. I really just loved that whole being. And during that whole time was, I guess, my growth and expansion of what music really became for me. I just started to just love expressing myself because I wasn't truly comfortable expressing myself to someone, so I wrote it down majority of the time. I started out in my old sidekick and just writing bars. I used to bang
That's like 09.
Yes, that was like 09 high school. I used to drum on the tables and everybody was getting mad love to the rappers. I wasn't getting no love. I'm like, I'm about to go home and like write everything down. So I started to write everything down, and then I got good at it, and it started to transcribe and progressing myself into just writing stuff that meant something.
Right,
how you were
yeah.
saying, like stuff that matters, like writing about stuff that I'm feeling, that you're feeling, that she's feeling, that everyone in the sense is feeling. So I became very aware of what was going on around me, and I fell into Wagner in a sense that they offered me a position. I'm a hall director. They're just looking over one of the residence halls. And with that, I knew I was able to be around a good opportunistic resource as to what they have available and who I can talk to, who I can network with, that can start the grassroots of my nonprofit art-based youth facility that I want to will become. And it'll cater to poetry, painting, dancing, you could ice sculpture, you could bang on tables all your life.
Right.
But I want to get it to that point where it's kind of like the hood Juilliard, where it's just like
I love that.
It's like you have supreme quality. Now you can either just be cool with where you're at, or you can take it to like an everlasting pinnacle. So that's where I want to put my, in a sense, career to, We can best fit people, and that's what I'm here for people.
Yeah.
It's people.
That's awesome. So I really kind of want to jump back to like what you were saying earlier, Gabriel,
Yeah.
about operating in this level of comfort or discomfort.
Yeah.
And I want to figure out, because you kind of like operate in like semi two different worlds.
Mhm.
How are you able to live your truth within these spaces that aren't, that some might be created by you, some aren't. So how do you function and live your truth, or be able to be who you are and expressive in these different spaces? How do you go about doing that?
I think it's, for me, it's about knowing where I am and how much can handle who I am, in a sense, because I can be the most outtasted person in the world, but if there's a cap limit as into where I am, I know it won't resonate, or it'll rock the boat too much as into what's going on. I try to be that in different spurts, just so that I, in a sense, get myself out. I get my truth out, I get my vulnerability out. I think it's being aware that people will criticize you, but it's to take everything into consideration. Again, take everything with a grain of salt, but knowing that there's some validity to what some people are saying, and it's taking that in and making that a part of your own truth, and how you can own that, and how you can best fit where you are at, or where I am at.
Yeah. I think it depends on the environment that you're in, right? Like different environments have different attributes and tones and cultures, and I think you have to know that the space that you're in is not, like, it doesn't define you. I think that, like, you have to know that, like, whether it's the job you're at or, you know, the school you're in, that you still own, like, you, right? You still own your thoughts, you still own your mind, you still own your emotions, and you can't let anything kind of like dictate that. Granted, like, there's social acceptability, right? Right? There's like, I could be, you know, super radical or like countercultural in the space that I'm in, but I have to know that, like, there's a purpose for me being here. And like, granted, you have to juggle between like being mission minded and like also being like, okay, like, what's true to me? Because I think there comes a level of sacrifice and I think in everything, but with every career or like space that you're in, a culture, like, you have to know, okay, like, what's my goal and how do I achieve that? But how do I achieve that in a real authentic way? And I think especially talking about millennials, I think we're really challenging the culture, right, of what does space look like? What is, like, being a professional look like? Can it be intersectional? Can it be multifaceted? Like, can I wear earrings to work? You know what I mean? No, I don't want to fit this mold. I want to bring me, because I think the value is truly in me, not in this paper or what I've done, but really who I am. And we're trying to, like, really, like, and I think for me, it's like, regardless of, I had to really get away from that, like, what your job is or your accomplishments or your whatever, like, defining you, because especially being in this metropolitan area of New York and being super strive culture of who do you know, what did you do, like, where did you go, that can really get to you. Like, that can, like, if you don't fit that mold, if you don't have this cookie cutter kind of like story or narrative, it's like you're lesser than, right? That's what the culture perpetuates. That's what the culture says, like, that's who you are. And it's like, no, like, you are who God says you are, and like who you say you are, because you define who you are, right? And like that, and that's your truest truth right there. Not letting these spaces define you, but also being malleable enough for it to enhance you and learn from and take from, and let it. And like, you know, there's always that clay analogy that, like, you know, you have a ball of clay and your life is these imprints of people touching the clay of these different spaces and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the puns you put in the pocket. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna keep that one. But yeah, like, I think, you know, you're open, you're malleable, because again, you need to, comfort, like, you need to be pushed outside your comfort zone. And if your comfort zone's in a space where it's allowing you to be, it's not challenging you in any way, then, like, that doesn't help you grow. But it's again, I think everything's a balance. Like you need to balance between, okay, like I'm gonna let this challenge me, but I'm also gonna be strong in who I am, right? And balance those two things.
Just to say one thing, I know. Also, it's people and peace.
Right.
I feel as if you need those people that are in these companies, these organizations, that you can be your true self too.
Yeah.
Just so that they can see how that resonates inside of an office or whatever setting that it is that there is, and that make sure that you speak your piece
Right.
of however it is that you do feel.
Right.
And you in a sense always be yourself, but it's fine tuning it to whatever it is, professionalism. They feel as if it's professionalism, so you're gonna make sure you in a sense you enhance yourself or you shape shift yourself to that point where you are still you no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's perceptivized as you being, I guess, cohesive or not being the super outcast of it.
Right.
Especially in professional setting, we were talking about like hair. My dad made this one quick like my dad was just like, you need to cut that hair because you'll never get a job like in a professional or corporate world.
Yeah.
And his friend had asked him at the shop. My dad owns a car shop, and he was just like, yeah, so like where do you work? I'm like, oh, I work at Wagner in a professional setting with my hair, with my beard. So I was just like, I love my dad. Shout out to my dad.
Right. Dope.
So then I have a question because you were talking about like shape shifting yourself to really kind of function in this environment. How do you do that? Because if you're at like a crossroad, if you will, when you're trying to figure out like how much of myself can I share and it not necessarily being welcomed, you're trying at that point you're talking about a culture. So now you're trying to impact the culture. So how do you, number one, even get the mindset? Like I feel like it's really kind of like a mental thing of actually coming to terms with, hey, you know what, I'm actually gonna be myself today and I'm gonna allow you to accept it, because at one point you're also thinking about risk. So if I'm saying, you know what, I'm gonna be myself today, but the risk is, you know, I could get backlash for this within this setting, how do you go about that process? Because like some people just shield off because it's a risk factor.
That's true.
I gotta be here for my job no matter what, but I'm so uncomfortable in the space that I function in.
Yeah.
How are we, because you're talking about millennials and like being acceptance of who you are, how do you get other people to see that? How is that conversation started?
Yeah.
Not being afraid.
Yeah.
Point blank period. It's not being afraid of the risks that you are taking, because these risks aren't a sense for you to grow and be at your most optimal level. So it's willing to throw these big stones inside of inside of these puddles just to see what the ripple effect is.
Right.
And you assess these ripple effects and see how they affect different people. It's really knowing people and knowing where to exactly shine at and how bright your shyness is, no matter where you want to shine. But it's in a sense, are you like a dark luminous glow, or you're just like, I'm just the sun right now? So it's knowing it's like knowing personalities, it's like knowing who's alpha, like it's like knowing who's beta, it's like knowing how can I even just throw in like a spritz of my sparkle, just so that it's going to resonate without being a detriment to whatever it is that you're in.
Right.
It's that, again, that non-fear of being true to what you want to do regardless, because there's a mission while you're there. Like there's a mission, there's a purpose that's into why you're there, and to lose sight of that for the sake of someone else and appeasing someone else or appeasing somebody's look, it'll just make you resentful of the space that you're in.
Yeah. And to speak about fear, I think it's so much. I always talk about the culture and what this New York, or what, I don't even know this. It's just inherent to New York, but I know New York is definitely a place that amplifies it. But like fear of failure, right? Like it's hard to get to a comfortable place where you're like, yo, I'm trying to like with the sparkle, I'm trying to figure out, like, am I in my dark luminous glow, am I sun? You're trying to figure out all these things, and it's like we want to make every right step, right? We want to say, okay, like, I did A, B, and C right. I did this, like, I'm good. But it's like, it's those failure moments that really teach you and help you learn, and you're not just let it be. I'm gonna let it flow how it flows, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna be okay.
Right.
I'm gonna be all right. We gon' like, you know what I mean? Like, we gonna be all right. I'm gonna be okay, because at the end of the day, like, if I get, if it's not for me, if this space is not for me, whatever that space is, know that in yourself, that know your worth and know your value, and know that I will find a space that is for me, or I'll create it. You know what I mean? Or I'll create that space. Like, if that space doesn't exist where it can be this intersectional thing, then and that's what we wrestle with, though, right? Again, I bring it back to comfortability. Are you okay with? Again, I could bring it back to economics of, like, are you okay with living that struggle life to create that space? And a lot of us are not. A lot of us are not, right? Like, we want, like, I got loans, right? I got family that I'm trying, especially if you coming from a black context, right? Or a minority context, we dealing with different economic or family situations that, we got to take into account, and it's like, bro, like, I want to do that, but, like, I got real responsibilities. I don't know if I can, or I don't even know what that looks like. Can I juggle 3 jobs at once? I don't know. I've never done, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, like, I think, but that's the beauty of it, though. I was on Instagram, and Colin Kaepernick, shout out to Colin Kaepernick, like, shout out to him for doing the $1 million challenge and so there's this organization that J. Cole donated to and Colin Kaepernick donated to. It's called Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. And I was like, and Cole talks about it in his lyrics, and then they, that's kind of the name of their org, and I'm like, that's real. Like, it is beautiful what we're doing. That struggle is the beauty of it, of, like, right, like, that's like, because if it's all cookie cutter, if it's all good, it's all great, like, you never see the reward, you never reap, like, okay, like, yo, I really, like, I remember when I almost got kicked out of school. Like, I didn't really value my education until I almost got kicked out of school, and say, like, yo, I need to change some things, I need to stop procrastinating, I need to, like, figure out what my life is going to be, like, I need to change some habits. But yeah, I think, it's, you just be okay with that. Be okay with the fact that, like, it's not always going to be this pie in the sky dream. And I think as millennials, we struggle with that too, because, the Instagram culture of saying, like, you're seeing everybody scroll, you're seeing the end product, but you're not seeing the process.
So I wanted to just talk about this journey because,
Yeah.
I've been on the journey as well, doing the undergrad, doing the grad at Syracuse University.
Yeah.
And then I ask myself, what's next? Because
Yeah.
the old school way, I don't know how old school it is, but the old school way is go to school, get good grades, go to high school, great grades, go to college, get a job, you're great, right?
Yeah,
and then you get out in the real world, which is totally different from the life you lived in college, and then you go, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Where is the purpose in what I'm doing? How am I in some cases repurposing my life? And how can I find happiness in what I'm doing, or create something that allows me to find that happiness? Because I feel like sometimes we don't allow ourselves, especially now, to enter that stage of self-discovery.
Yeah.
We don't allow ourselves to enter a stage of, well, what is it that I actually want to do? And then also accepting the direction that we take. So for the both of you, what would you recommend for someone who's just, like, teetering the idea of, well, I really want to go after my passions, but, the economic issues are there, right? Which are real. You have family to support, you have yourself to support.
Yeah.
Or I may be economically set, but I don't know if I take that leap of faith, then I'll have, like, the support, the backing. I don't know how far it's going to go. And then also just being comfortable in whatever decision you make, if it quote unquote falls through, then saying, okay, let's try a different path.
Mm.
So how do you, and let's restructure ourselves, right? Because it's really important. Sometimes when we, go a specific direction, sometimes we just got to keep restructuring ourselves and remolding ourselves. So,
Yeah.
like, what would you recommend somebody to actually taking that step? And then also, what would that process look like for them?
Yeah. This is like life questions, I love it though. I'm like, this is stuff we should be thinking about, right? Like, this is stuff we should be questioning. We should be constantly engaged in a dialogue about. So I think we all talk, like I think we're constantly having these conversations with ourselves.
Right.
And thank you for like even just having this platform to even talk about this real stuff that people maybe like now will encourage other people to have these real conversations. I think the first step is, it's so hard. Like, I think the first step is like kind of like just try, and granted, like that's super simple, but like for me, like I think about like the road I'm on, I think about youth, right? And my passion for youth, and I think about like my societal like mind of like I really want to change. Like I'm not with the sexism, the capitalism, the classism, the like every ism. I'm like it's gotta go. Like I just want the entire world to change for the better, and I think about how do I achieve that? How do I attack that? And it's taking like it might be volunteering with an organization or going to like a meetup of like-minded people to see what other people are doing. And I think. I remember I was watching a sermon, and he was talking about, like, the pastor was talking about, like, leading your own, your own race. And I think as a culture, especially the old culture, is like, there's expected stages of life, right? It's like you said, you alluded to it, it's college or whatever, and career, kids, and even from a business standpoint, marketing is even changing the game, because as millennials, we're like, well, we don't adhere to that timeline. We're gonna do something different. And once you get more comfortable and like, when I disengage from the fact of like, I need to be X, Y, and Z by X time, like when you detach yourself from that, that gives you just a freedom and a peace, right? And a joy that you can say like, like at the end of the day, like my race is going to be my race and my life is going to be my life. And I'm going to be okay with it. The more you come at peace with that fact of like, your life is gonna be your life. Like I remember I was in Thailand and I met this veteran. And he was like, yeah, man, like I get a check and I just travel the world, right? And like with me and my partner, and I was like, yo, that's so dope. I was like, you are like not attached to society, like you could just do what you want. Yeah. And one could say, oh, like, and he was like, oh yeah, we might, stay in a hut or like a hostel for like, $5, $2 a night, something crazy, right? But like we're at peace. Right? And I was like, I respected him so much for that, and I admired him so much for that, because he was like in his 50s. One would say, oh, like, where's your retirement? He was like, yo, I'm on retirement. Like, I figured that out. Like, the U.S. government's gonna take care of me because I fought for them. Like, for real. Granted, he was fortunate enough to figure that out, and I think from an economic, bring up economics, from an economic standpoint, we're trying to figure out what does that residual income look like, what does our assets look like, and we're really trying to figure that out. And to talk about just path and journey, like just trying to find the purpose in it all. I think once you get comfortable with your lane and you try to step into that lane and say, even like it could be the mental day-to-day of struggle of like, yo, I'm in this road, I'm in this track, but I'm going to do this acting class, even though like I've never acted before. I'm gonna buy a keyboard. I'm gonna go to this paint and sip. Like whatever that is, whatever that looks like, or I'm gonna start going to the gym. And you take those steps, and then you start to say like, you know what, I'm getting out of these pressures from all these people. I'm taking my own, and I'm trying. And even if like this youth, or even if this artistry or whatever that is, even if it doesn't materialize as something truly tangible and sustainable, at least I could say that I gave it a shot. At least I can say that, like I figured out that I thought that was for me, but it's not for me. And that's not what I'm truly called to. And I'm okay with the fact that I don't know. Because we're expected, as soon as you hit a certain age, you're expected to have it all together. And then once I got out of that, especially in school, where I was like, yo, I don't have to have it all together, and I can rely on grace, I can rely on peace, and I can rely on, like, it's a journey. I was able to make those steps, and I was able to try, and I was able to fail, and I was able to make trials, and I'm still growing in it, right? And I want you to know that just everything is a process. That's how you get there.
Right. And also, I want to say, just to piggyback off real quick, and then I'll let you answer. Don't just try one time. I think that's
Right,
really key,
yeah.
because I feel like a lot of times we'd be like, oh, we're just gonna try it. Oh, it failed. It's
Right,
okay. I'm just
perseverance.
gonna do something else. So the perseverance, the consistency is also key,
Yeah.
and wherever you're trying to go. Because I know it probably took you multiple times to get to where you are. So, but I want to give you the floor to actually answer the question as well.
Yeah, we said it. Try. Just try, fam. It's just try and just do. Don't overthink it too much. Just do it. Hold yourself accountable. Give yourself soft deadlines. Not everything has to be a hard deadline. Give
Sure.
yourself those soft deadlines to make sure that you are putting your effort in, so that you're able to assess yourself and assess your progression on what you're doing. I completely agree with the aspect. It's a journey, but just don't overdo the journey. Don't make it longer than it should have to be, because there's so much out there that can also benefit you at the same time. You don't know what you'll pick up from doing what it is that you want to do. Like myself, I'd be sitting in my room, I'd be like, I'm making music, absolutely, but I'm having thoughts of creating different businesses and different, I ain't gonna say too much. People still ideas, but
That's true.
or different like workout gear, like that I feel like will both best benefit me. So I'm sitting here like, all right, listen, there's at a point in time that I have to make this happen, so
Right.
I can move on and just
Right.
not have it be this trivial process of constantly figuring out what is going on. But the first step is actually just doing it.
Right.
And while you're doing it, it's looking around and see how resourceful can I be.
Right.
I've been just resourceful. I have a full size mattress, and I took Matt's, shout out to Matt, he left, went to Philly, great stuff. So I took his old frame, his old, like the mattress pad, Matt saw, you lay down, you get a good night's sleep. It's not Tempur-Pedic, but it's enough.
Right.
It didn't fit my bed, so I chopped off some of the edges. I was about to throw them away, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I can use these. How can I use these? And I have a box of just a random open cardboard box in my room. I'm like, I can put all of this around this box to make a mic apparatus, so that it condenses the sound, and so that it gives me a more crisp sound in how I'm recording. So that way I feel more at peace in what I'm recording, and feel more comfortable and happy with what I'm recording, so I can put myself in the mode to be like, all right, now it's time to record, because you got what you need. Like at a certain point, you have to stop looking around. It's being resourceful, but once you stop looking around for constantly look to add, because you don't want to have so much that it distracts you, or that it just takes you away from what the true mission is. It's like, listen, I got what I have right now. We gonna make do with what we got.
Right.
And then once we get to a place where we can have an abundance, we'll have that.
Yeah.
But you'll know where to shell out the abundances to. But it starts with that aspect of literally just doing and trying and holding yourself accountable to soft deadlines that you need to put on yourself. Just how if you would have employees, like treat yourself almost as you can be your supervisor and your employee at the same time. You
Right.
can work, but you also have to manage yourself
Right.
enough to say, hey, listen, like, I understand you're doing this, but I need this done, dog. Like quarterlies is coming up. Like other things is coming up. I need this to happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much for actually being here with me and sharing your thoughts. This was amazing. And I hope you all enjoyed it as well. So thank you, K-Bell. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Definitely tune in to another episode. You can subscribe at the bottom of the page right below. Yes. And I hope you all have a great evening.